Some may call it core content, others might say anchor content, anchor medium, or pillar content. Whatever you choose to name it, the concept is the same. It's your big, long-form pieces of content, and they can feed all the other content you create. Having one main anchor medium, yep, just one, can be really effective. But why, and how do you choose which one? Keep listening to find out more. You're listening to the Content 10x podcast, where it's all about content repurposing. I'm Amy Woods, and I'm here to help you maximize your content and find smart ways to get your message in front of more of the right people, whilst also saving time. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Content 10x podcast. I'm Amy Woods. I'm the host of this show and the founder of the world's first and longest running content repurposing agency, Content 10x. Thank you so much for tuning in. Whether it's the first time, in which case a big warm welcome, or if you're a long-term listener, thanks so much for joining me once more. It's really, really great to have you here. Now, I'm so excited to cover this topic with you today, where we explore choosing your anchor content, which follows on from my fantastic conversation with John Bonini in episode 293 called How to Create a Content Brand. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, I highly recommend it. John is really regarded in the world of B2B marketing, specifically in the SaaS space. So check out that episode. The link is in the show notes. It's at content10x.com/293. Anyway, back to this week's topic, which is choosing a main core content type that is going to be the regular piece of content that feeds all the rest of the content that you create. It's important to have one main anchor medium, but how do you choose the one that's right for you and your team? So in this episode, I'm going to cover what anchor content is, why it's beneficial to focus on one rather than many, and how to find the right format that's going to work for you and your team. However, before I get to the main content, just to mention, if you want content repurposing tips and guidance, industry updates, inspiring stories and exclusive news delivered straight to your inbox every other week, then join thousands of marketers, business owners and creators and become a Content 10x insider. Just head to content10x.com/newsletter. As I was saying, when you work in a B2B marketing team, it can be so beneficial for you to have a key piece of core pillar content or an anchor medium, whatever the terminology you use, that you focus on. You can become proficient at creating this specific type of content, and because it's long form and you put time into creating it, it can then feed all the other content you create. So what could this be? Well, it could be a podcast, for example, or a video series, a blog or research papers or white papers, a type of long-form content that, as I said, it's really high value and it can feed lots of additional content that you create as a brand. Now, this podcast is obviously our anchor medium here at Content 10x. It's the original main piece of content that is turned into videos for social media and YouTube, posts for LinkedIn and other social media platforms, blog posts and so on. Each episode provides us with many weeks of content. If we really went to town, a single podcast episode could provide us with months of content. Now, we're experts in repurposing after all. That's what we do as a business. So if there's one thing we can do well, it's extract the value from content to create new content. When I spoke to John Bonini in episode 293 of the Content 10x podcast, we talked about one of the major mistakes brands make is publishing anchor pieces of content all over the place with no consistency, and how it's better to focus in on one medium and just be really consistent with it. You may ask why, but if you are consistently pumping out lots of different core content, chances are you are not repurposing any of the content that you're creating, or you are repurposing it, but you're not getting to lay down systems and processes to repeatedly get the most out of that content, meaning so much goes to waste. I spoke about the benefits of anchor content and episodic content in episode 288 of the podcast. It was called 7 Reasons Why Your Marketing Strategy Needs Episodic Content. So go to content10x.com/288 to check that out. Pillar, anchor, core, content, whatever you call it, is basically everything that we subscribe to here at Content 10x. We're way more able to serve our clients if they focus on this way of working. So how do you go about choosing the best anchor medium or type of anchor content for your brand? Well, there is absolutely no one-size-fits-all to this question. It depends. There are so many factors at play. Now, all things being equal, we believe that video is a great anchor medium because one video can result in a podcast episode, a blog post or more than one blog post, social media videos, images, text-only posts, and so much more. You can end up with content for months. And if your video content is an interview, then it also provides the opportunity to create content with others. You can reach out to members of your target audience and invite them onto your show and create fantastic networking opportunities on top of creating content. Way back in episode 151 of the podcast in September 2020, so as I'm speaking right now, over 3 years ago, I recorded an episode called What is the Best Type of Content to Repurpose? And guess what? I said then video as well, but in fact I went as far as to say live video. So if you have the appetite for that, you can add audience interaction and engagement into the mix as well as have all the benefits of video content. Live video was more popular back then, I would say in 2020, but it's still a really good option, very good for community building. However, I completely acknowledge that live streaming, creating video content, podcasting, all of that isn't for everyone. The key is to go for anchor mediums that work for you and your team. So what you need to do really is you need to look at their skills and look at what they want to do, what interests them, or if it's just you creating the content, what do you want to do and what interests you? Does your team's skill sets lie in producing audio and video content, or does your skill set lie in video and audio content? Are they more researchers? Are they more writers? Because the truth is you can always tell content that has just been produced because it has to be. For example, keyword-driven content that's just checking off boxes because that's what they're supposed to do, or YouTube content that's created just because they want to get organic reach from YouTube, or a podcast where the host clearly doesn't want to be hosting a podcast. It's obviously forced and it's boring. However, content that's produced by a team that's invested in the outcome and really skilled at producing it, that's what we want. So look at your current team. What should your anchor medium be based on your current skills and the interests of your team? What types of content do they love to create? And what are they the best at? Make sure that the anchor medium that you settle on is repurposable and determine what that would look like. How would you repurpose that core content? Another option is to hire for the anchor medium that you want to create. So if you want your anchor medium, your pillar content to be a podcast, but at the moment you just don't have anyone in your team with the skills, abilities or desire to launch and host a podcast, then when you make your next hire in your team, hire with that in mind. Find the person who will do that. Ultimately, the key is to align your anchor medium with your team, because by doing that, it's so much easier to gain traction, build the kind of audience you want, and get in front of your ideal customer. And as I always say, from great content comes great quality repurposed content. It always starts with quality. So finding the perfect anchor medium for you and your team is what will bring out the best in what they can do. And then when that's repurposable, this is a complete sweet spot because all that quality repurposed content comes from that quality core content. So there you have it. Deciding on one type of anchor content for your brand is the best way to produce awesome content that your audience really wants to consume, and you have a happy team who are producing something that they really believe in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Coming up in 2 weeks, we'll have a slightly different format. I'll be joined by our marketing manager here at Content 10x, so we're trying a new format for the show. So I'm really looking forward to that. Keep an eye out for it. But before I go, if you need any help with your content repurposing, then we offer a fully done-for-you content repurposing service for B2B businesses. Just head to content10x.com/services to find out more about what we do and how we might be able to help you. Whether you have webinars, event content, videos, podcasts, reports, white papers, any form of long-form content, in fact, any form of anchor or pillar content, just as I've been speaking about today, we can unlock the potential within it for you. So get in touch if you would like some help with your content. Okay, that's a wrap. All that's left to say is thanks so much for listening. Happy repurposing, and I'll catch you in the next one.